Today I'm going to show you how to run brake line and double flare it. What I usually recommend is copper nickel brake line. It bends really easy. You can do it all by hand. You don't need a pipe bender. And it's very well against corrosion. You're going to need your different fittings depending on which ones you need for the type of vehicle you're working on. And your double flaring kit. You're going to have your different fittings based on the brake line size, a small pipe cutter, the device that will actually hold your brake line while you're performing the technique, and then the instrument that actually double flares it. First thing you need to do is get your brake line held in the device. Depending on what size brake line you have, there's different sizes across here. This one's actually a 3/16. So you'll just clamp it in there. Don't clamp it down all the way at first. Just get it in there enough to hold it. And then on these little fittings, you can see the small part there. That's all the further that you want the brake line to come through. So you want to have it through just enough to be the same length as the small portion. Once you get it through just enough, crank down the brake line. Make sure it's in there nice and tight, that way it doesn't slip out. Then slide your fitting through the brake line hole. This is what will actually flare the brake line, and this will fit around this. And on this fitting, in the very middle, is a small punch. You can run this right to the inside, the very tip, right in that hole. And then start cranking it down. Now you want to keep going basically till it stops, until you can't go any further at all. What this is doing is crushing the pipe down, or brake line I guess you'd say, so that your fitting will not fall off. And you'll take everything back off. Pull your fitting out of the pipe, and you can see that it's crushed down. Now I should say your little fittings you have to put on before that, but since this is just a demonstration, I'm not putting the fitting on. Then you'll put this back on it again, but without the piece that goes inside the brake line, and you'll just slide it, the tip of it, right into the middle of the brake line. and start cranking it down. go till it stops. Take it back off. Loosen your vise. And you can see, flared the outside so that your fitting can't slide off. And then the inside, it tapers. That way when you put it to your fitting and screw everything together, the inside will seal up against the other fitting and you won't have any leaks. Now I'll show you how I ran my brake line. This on a 92. You can kind of see the new portion. It went from the master cylinder down to a T fitting, and it rusted in the back. If you can kind of see, and it snapped at the very end back behind the bracket. But when you do screw everything in, make sure you get it all nice and tight. And when you're bending your line, make sure not to kink it, otherwise you're going to have big problems. And make sure you run your coils coming off the master cylinder. That way if there's any body movement with the vehicle, which there will be if you're driving, it can compress. Gives it a little bit of movement too. Make sure everything's nice and tight.